Hello there, welcome to our next interview, and today I'm here with Michaela Hausmann. Welcome Michaela, and thank you so much for your time being here with us.
Thank you.
So Michaela will talk more about the impact of sugar on your health. So we're very excited to learn more from Michaela today. Before we get started, could you share a little more about who you are and what you do?
With pleasure. So my name is Michaela Hausmann. I'm a medical doctor by training and also a certified professional coach. My special area of expertise is actually the field of metabolic disease, particularly diabetes type 2 and obesity. So that's why the topic of sugar is something that is very important to me, and and I also work as a coach. So after several years in clinical research and pharmaceutical research in the area of type 2 diabetes and obesity, I returned very recently back to clinical practice to work again with patients and helping them dealing with health-related issues, and also support them as a coach when it comes to making necessary changes in their lives to contribute to better health.
Wow, that's a very interesting combination, all the different kind of streams and industries you've worked in. What has been your personal experience with sugar?
Well, my personal experience is, as probably most human beings, that I love sugar. I would say it's rather addictive. I have a sweet tooth, and particularly in summer ice cream, and otherwise cakes are really a challenge for me to resist.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your personal experience, and actually I found it super interesting to hear from you, because also as an expert that sugar, even though you know the impact of sugar, that it's still part of your balanced diet, and it can be, because that's actually also one of the things we would love to share with our audience, is that it's not as of now that you can never touch sugar again ever. So thank you for sharing that with our audience, and I'm sure they're happy to hear that. And so today we're actually here in Michaela's practice in the Edlisville, close to Zurich, Switzerland. And so I would love to hear also from you, from a professional point of view, what has been your experience with sugar and the impact on your patient's health?
Yeah. So from a health perspective, of course, particularly in the field of diabetes and obesity, sugar and any kind of so-called refined carbohydrates, which are foods like white flour, starchy foods, processed foods basically, have a strong impact on our blood sugar levels. And the impact that has is that if you have sugar, then your blood sugar levels raise very quickly, which triggers the body to release insulin to lower the blood sugar again, but then it's really like a peak and a sharp drop. And that's what causes in the long term cravings and feelings of hunger again. And that is of course an issue when, first of all, you should reduce weight, because in 95% of the cases type 2 diabetes is associated with obesity. And also as an obese person, you want to reduce weight, and you want to have or at least stabilize your body weight, and everything that causes cravings and makes you more hungry, of course is a struggle for you, and has an impact on this, and kind of undermines your so-called willpower or discipline and what you want to achieve. So I think from that perspective it's very important to understand that physiology and why it's actually not so good to have sugar or sugary foods, sweet foods as something in between, or when you are really hungry, but that it's really more like a treat that you have, for instance, after a meal, because then it's more balanced out. and your blood sugar levels are more stable. And of course we know that in our society and with our lifestyle we have a lot of those kinds of foods available. We snack all the time, we eat all the time, there are sugary drinks, so that we constantly give our bodies more calories than the body actually needs. And sugar is nothing that the body really needs. Right, so that's something that we need to be aware of. So what is really most important for me from a medical point of view is to raise awareness. And I think it's not so much the problem with what everyone would recognize as sweet food, like a piece of cake or a piece of chocolate. It's what I really find very challenging is that sugar is in so many foods where you would not think it is, like salty ham, where sugar is in as a stabilizer or to refine the taste. In all of the processed foods like sauces, everything, there is sugar in it, and so it adds up over the day, and that is what really the problem, because we are not aware of it. We don't see it. If you don't really pay attention, you don't notice it, and then you have a very high intake of sugar, which is far beyond what you need and what is healthy, and that's a real danger from my perspective, because in the long term we all know what happens, and type 2 diabetes has a lot of complications. It doubles the risk of cardiovascular disease like myocardial infarction, stroke. It can cause kidney disease. It damages the eyes, the nerves, and it doesn't hurt, so people don't realize what's going on. And that is really the problem. And the same is with obesity. I mean, obesity, at least if it's to a higher degree, causes serious health damage, and that is a big burden in our society. But if we don't know what we take in, we almost cannot really do anything against it, because we think we eat healthy, and in fact we eat lots of unhealthy food with lots of sugar.
That's very interesting, and especially also to hear, actually I think for our audience, to hear what you mentioned about the willpower. If you don't know how much sugar there's actually sneakily getting into your body because of even salty foods that contain sugar, then your blood sugar level is like this roller coaster that you just explained.
Exactly.
And then most people actually, and you might identify with that as well, you start blaming yourself rather than actually knowing what is happening and what you're doing to your body.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and it's a very complex physiology, which now in this short interview we don't have really time to explain in more detail, but I think in your programs and also during the workshop we will do that to a greater extent. But I think it all starts with awareness, and that people know what happens in their bodies, so that then they can make more conscious choices, and also watch the labels a little bit better and know what might be a better alternative rather than having something sweet when they feel tired or have a low in energy. That it's better probably to eat a banana than a chocolate bar, or some nuts, for instance, or something like that.
That is already actually a great practical tip. That actually brings me to the last question also. What are one or two other practical tips that our audience can implement immediately? What would you recommend them, other than finding healthier alternatives?
Yeah, well, I mean, number one is certainly, and I have to say, sometimes it strikes me that it's still so common, is that people should not consume all these sugar-sweetened drinks. Many people take in a lot of sweet drinks, and even the natural fruit juice contains a lot of sugar, but it's a meal basically. In terms of calories, it's a meal, and or at least it's like a snack. but you don't feel it because you don't have this feeling of satiety when you have just drunk a glass of orange juice or something. And then the soft drinks are even worse. And even if it's the one that are sugar-free, I mean, I know that the evidence, the clinical evidence is controversial. There are studies that say it actually has an impact on your blood sugar level and it gives you the feeling that like real sugar. Other studies say the contrary, but I think what is worst about it, no matter what it does physiologically, is that you get used to this sweet taste, and that you actually don't have a normal, how should I put it, a normal feeling for for sweet taste. So reducing, for instance, sugar in drinks is very important. That's number one, because that is really something where you can easily also save a lot of sugar and calories. Second thing is certainly, although this might require more knowledge, that you really check the labels of what you buy, that you try to buy less processed food. So if there's more than 5 ingredients in it, you should not consume too much of those kind of foods. And you should also maybe, there are sources in the internet available that you can watch for the different names for sugar, because it's not always said sugar. There are several names like glucose, saccharose, dextrose, maltose, corn syrup, whatever, some of which I even don't know. I have to look them up.
I think there are 54 names in total. It's actually part of the program, the Sugar Awareness Week. We'll share also in English and in German these names. So it's what you said, that people can start reading the label and actually identify, even if it's not called sugar, that it's still a type of sugar or just another name for sugar.
And I mean, the way I did it to really reduce my sugar intake, and I was actually surprised how easy that was. For instance, I stopped putting sugar in my coffee, and I didn't put any replacement. And like for the first 3 days it was maybe a bit weird.
Different flavor.
But now I don't like sweet coffee anymore. So I quickly got used to that. And in the same, like especially in the winter time, but also in summertime, then I just drink cold tea. But I didn't put any sugar anymore in it. I just use sorts that are naturally a little bit sweet, like fruit tea, herbal teas, and that's something which was very easy. I don't feel I'm missing something, and I try, and it's not always, I'm not always succeeding, but I really try to avoid sweet snacks if I feel hungry. I try then to use something else and have sweets really as a treat and enjoy it. Like this is something special, like a piece of cake on a Sunday afternoon. I love it, and I really want to have it in my life, but it's not for every day, and it's certainly not replacing a meal when I'm hungry. So it's a treat.
Wow, those are great tips, and especially well done on even reducing your sugar in the drinks, because that's a very easy way to get a lot of sugar into our system.
That was actually after your workshop, by the way.
I know, but it was so nice to hear it again. Thank you so much. Yes, and this is actually exactly the impact that we would like to make also during this Sugar Awareness Week, where people become aware of how much sugar they're getting into their body on a daily basis. And it's not, it's not about that you can never have sugar ever again in your life, and that's why I love your message so much. But really about finding a balance for yourself, so it's a treat and it's not a daily habit where you're just flooding your system with something that in those quantities is just detrimental to your health.
Exactly, and that's one thing I really would like to add, because that's so important, especially when dealing with chronic diseases like diabetes. and obesity. If you just say, oh, I can't have this anymore, I mean, the desire to have it it just gets bigger and bigger, and it's not feasible, and then you have this feeling of, oh, I'm failing again. So it's much better to allow yourself to enjoy a treat here and there, as long as if you're conscious about it and that you really consider it what it is, a treat, and not a regular thing to have constantly and several times a day and in between. And that's the most important thing, not to have it all the time in between, because that has an impact on your blood sugar levels, which actually then makes you craving more and leads to these problems.
Thank you so much for sharing your tips and your personal experience and professional experience. And to conclude, is there any way how the people could get in contact with you?
Our practice has a website, but of course I can be reached via the practice phone line and also by email, and I can add that to the website so that people can find me.
Well, Michaela, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
Bye.